Hey everybody, Koricon here, and we've got Breathe, Episode 6, Blind Man's Bluff. And this was a very interesting episode, especially because of the ending. Now, this is a spoiler-heavy discussion. I have a spoiler-free review for episodes 1 through 4 if you want to check that out. If you haven't seen the episode, please go watch it, then come back and we'll discuss it. And I've been doing this for every episode so far. So we've also got 7 and 8, which is 8 is coming out soon. And so we'll be doing those as well. So stay tuned for those. Turn on your notifications so you know when they hit. But in this episode, we start right where the last episode ended. Episode 5 ended with him going back to the apartment. He goes upstairs. Kabir is in his house. So we start right there at that sequence, and he's being interviewed by Kabir and his partner, because they've been going around and talking to everybody that's on the receiving list for the transplant donors. One of the things he says that I like the line, you know, they're innocent until proven guilty. And Danny says, more like guilty until proven innocent. That's how it works out here. And you know, it's like that everywhere, really. I mean, it's like that here too. You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But people usually make their minds up before they talk to somebody. And most of the time you have to try and prove your innocence. So I totally understand his line of thinking. It was a good line. I like that line. And then they asked Danny, same kind of thing they asked the other people that they had interviewed. What if somebody contacted you about providing an organ for your son? Would you report them? And Danny says, finally, I would. And they're like, you wouldn't try to save your son's life? And he's like, no, I would. We would take the organ. And then afterwards, I would call the police. So he gets the best of both worlds in there. He's like, first I'd be a father, and then I would be a good citizen. And that is like the perfect answer. I mean, I think anybody would totally understand and agree with that. That if put in that situation, they would first save their son's life. And then you turn him into the police because the damage is done already, and at least my son is alive. So I think it was the perfect answer. Danny's son had a toy gun and freaked out Kabir with it to where he ended up yelling at him, and it like flooded back all this emotion from his daughter. But that comes into play a bit later as well. So there's a lot of parallels that are going on. When they left, Kabir and his partner are in the car and they're talking about it, and he's like, Kabir's like, you know, he's the right height. Something doesn't feel right about this guy, but he can't prove anything yet. And then we have the girlfriend asking about Danny's stay at the hospital with the nurse. Finds out he's using a different name, asks to see his file, and then that's the opening sequence. It was one of the longer opening sequences before the credits rolled that we've had. Most of the time for the other episodes, it was a pretty quick sequence and usually just one scene. This had 3 different sequences in it before. You had the interview with Danny, you had Kabir and the partner talking in the car, and the girlfriend in the hospital. And all of that happened before the credits even went. So I was like, wow, they're trying to cram a lot of information into this episode. After the credits, we get the bathtub scene again. He's underneath the water. He's reliving some backflashes of the people that he's killed, his victims. And it seems as though he's being haunted by all of this. And that holding his breath underwater in the bathtub is kind of his way of having a solitary moment of trying to deal with these emotions. But later on, we find out it's a little bit different than what we thought. They reinforce Danny's bathtub sequence by mirroring it with Kabir's next scene, where he is reliving his daughter's death. And so he is also having backflashes and memories. Here's his daughter laughing and saying Papa in her room. And then you have this cool first-person camera shot as it opens the door and shows the daughter's room and how it's nice and clean and pristine. And he goes in there and he touches the bed and the pictures and has memories of happy times with him and his now ex-wife and the daughter. And then they have this great sad music that's going on, and I thought it really pumped up the emotional level of the sequence, and it had piano and violin playing, and it was very good, set the tone perfect. And then he falls asleep on her bed, holding her teddy bear, and it reminds him of the time that he fell asleep on her bed with her, with his head like right next to her. It was a very cute scene, but that was mirroring what was going on with Danny in his head, reliving the past as well at the bathtub. And it was a way of reinforcing the bathtub scene, which again comes into play and is important later. Danny is now being followed. The guy that's following him, though, is not very good at it. He's very obvious. He stays very close to the car. It's like insanely obvious. But at first, Danny doesn't notice because he's so preoccupied with his own thoughts that he doesn't really see him back there. But I was like, man, this guy is really bad at following. So I hope he's not a cop. And they end up following him to his warehouse. So he doesn't notice that they followed him to the warehouse, but they discover the warehouse now. So the guy calls it in. Kabir and his partner show up at the warehouse and they're looking around, and then the dog starts barking, which is very smart that Danny is using him as an early warning device to let him know that someone is coming. And Danny uses that time to store all of the stuff that he had hanging on the wall to hide it. And I was wondering what he would do when that scene was going on. I was wondering what he would do to hide all that stuff. Did he have a fake wall come down? Did he have it on a poster board that he could roll up? All that kind of stuff. And it turns out he just put it all in the box of sports equipment that he was holding. So he had the sports equipment on top, which also made a lot of sense because when they start searching around and looking in the warehouse, they're not going to be looking at the box that he's holding in his hand because that would almost be too obvious. But everything was taken down, I think, a little too fast because he has everything pinned to the wall with thumbtacks. So if he had just ripped everything off the wall, it would look like something was ripped off the wall with a bunch of thumbtacks in the wall. And I don't know if he would have enough time to pull all the thumbtacks out. Now, it could be he just didn't have a lot on the wall, but I thought I seemed to remember a good amount. So it's believable. You could also pull pictures and stuff straight forward or straight towards you and it would pull the pins out of the wall, so that's a possibility. As long as it's not a thin paper. Pictures are usually a nice thick paper, so you could pull it forward and it would pull the pins with it. But either way, it doesn't matter. I was just thinking about that when I was watching. I was like, I wonder how long it would take him to actually pull all that stuff down realistically. Anyway, he had it in the box and he takes it back to his house. He puts it in his garage as high up as he can reach. That way, his son or his mother don't accidentally, find it. So after the warehouse was discovered, he finally realizes that he's being followed and he knows the guy that's following him now. But he still takes the risk of moving on to donor number 5 and stopping right outside the guy's residence. And then when he notices that he's still being followed, he looks up seafood restaurants with his phone and then goes to a restaurant, and they have the scene with Kabir and his partner meeting him at the seafood restaurant as he's eating fried fish, and uses the excuse that, I drove all this way because the fish is really good. And they're like, well, the fish is really good. But it was this cool little mental chess game back and forth of them talking and feeling each other out. It was a cool sequence. I like that. But Kabir just, he makes a really good point. He's like, a father that's really busy wants to spend time with his son. Why would he drive 2 hours out of the way and through traffic just to get fish and a beer? And yeah, that's a very valid question. But also, it seemed sloppy on Danny's point to immediately continue going after donor number 5, even though his warehouse was discovered and he knows he's being followed. Why would you take that risk right away? I don't get that. I think that was too much of a risk. Now, Danny has been getting a bit sloppy. As we've seen with others, he's become more reckless with each kill, which could show that he's, and this happens with a lot of criminals, especially like with serial killers and things like that, is they start to become emboldened as if they can't be caught, and they start taking more and more risks because they feel like they're too smart for the cops and that they can't be caught. But I didn't get that feeling with Danny. I just thought he was, because he's feeling rushed because his son has so little time, that he's taking risks that he normally wouldn't take because he has to get it done. But this risk seemed a little too high. I would think he would kind of feel out the people that were following him and maybe try and find a way of still doing his surveillance but not getting caught. So I don't know. I thought that was a little bit too sloppy. But I did like the idea of going to the seafood restaurant. It was too far away. And real quick, I do like the little joke that Kabir says where he's like, something seems fishy. Funny, Kabir. That was funny. And then we have a really weird off-tone scene that kind of comes out of nowhere. Danny's partner has a sequence where he carries the scene perfectly fine. He's a good actor. But the scene doesn't seem to fit, and I don't know where it fits in. The writers are very detailed, and so I'm not sure if this is going to come into play later on or if they just wanted to intersect a humorous moment to kind of change the tone or clear the palette a little bit. But they had a sequence of him talking to his girlfriend on the phone, that the package came in, and he looks at the package and it's a vibrator. And then he ends up accidentally turning it on, and the boss comes in, he throws it in the desk is shaking around, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's an earthquake. Quick, hold the stuff over there, and then he ends up turning it off. It was a funny scene, but it felt like it didn't really fit. Like, I don't know why that was there. You could have easily cut that out and it would not change anything. So it seemed like a pointless scene, but knowing the writers, a lot of this stuff tends to come back. So I'm wondering if it is a pointless scene, or if we'll find out in episode 7 or 8 that is relevant for some reason. I don't know how it could be. I mean, it's just a funny scene of a guy not knowing how to use a vibrator. But it made me laugh, so the scene did its job well. I just felt like it was out of place. Danny's girlfriend gets an email of the admitted patients during that time and puts together that Danny was there under a fake name at the same time as donor number 1 who died, who has the AB negative blood. And then she has a backflash montage of Danny saying things like why he's not at work so much at the academy, and then she ends up figuring out that he's killing people to get his son higher up on the list. So the guys are following Danny, and he ends up going to the school for the blind. And apparently he volunteers there a lot to teach the kids some football lessons, and teaches them that they need to say voy. That way they know where each other is while they're playing, and then walks them through some exercises and some training stuff. And then he wants to show them a movie. So he's like, we're going to show a movie. And they're like, no Hindi. We don't understand Hindi. He's like, okay. For the 2 guys that can see, that help run the school, he's like, you 2 meet me outside. And he takes them to another room, and he sits them down and gives them a movie. Now, the movie that he's showing them is an Akshay Kumar movie called AIRLIFT from 2016. And the scene is with Akshay talking to this guy near the beginning of the movie. Now, I haven't seen the movie. I want to see the movie. I just haven't seen it yet. But I recognized the way that Akshay looks, because that's how he looks in the trailer. Because he doesn't have a beard very often. So he has a beard and the pinstripe suit. I think I said pinstripe soup. Pinstripe suit. And the scene that he's showing them is from early on in the film. And if you want to see that exact scene, I've got a link to it in the description below. T-Series has it as one of their clips of the movie. It's the first clip from the movie that they showed. They have like 4 or 5 clips that they showed for the movie's promotion. And that exact clip is one of those. Then the director had a long distance camera shot with the fence of the school in the foreground out of focus. It's very much of a first person voyeur look, which is supposed to show that Danny is seeing the guys that are following him, and they got food and they're eating and talking. They're kind of distracted. So it's like his moment to be able to kind of sneak away for a bit. So they show him showing the movie to the blind kids, and it's Charlie Chaplin. The movie that they're showing is called The Circus from 1928, and it's about an hour and 12 minutes, hour and 8. The scene that is shown in the movie is with him and a lion, and Danny is translating everything so that the blind kids can know what's going on. And it's smart to show a silent film, because it's a silent film, because you have the music playing and you don't have the dialogue from the movie, getting over what Danny is explaining what's going on. And if you want to watch that movie, the full movie is on YouTube, and I've got a link to it in the description below as well. So if you're interested in seeing the silent film Charlie Chaplin, The Circus from 1928, it's down there. But the scene with the lion, that takes place about 36 to 38 minutes into the film, which means and they showed the scene and Danny is sitting there translating it. So he was physically there at that moment. And what he could do is turn on a recorder or something that he had recorded ahead of time of him, continuing to translate, because the blind kids are not going to know that he's gone. The other 2 guys are distracted by AIRLIFT watching Akshay Kumar, and that's like over 2 hours, so he's got some time. The time that he has before the circus is over is about 20 minutes. So he has a 20-minute window to be able to leave and come back. Maybe a little bit more, because the 2 guys that can see, they're watching AIRLIFT, which is longer than the Charlie Chaplin movie. And when the Charlie Chaplin movie is over, the blind kids are probably going to be talking to each other, and they may not notice that Danny is not there for a while. So you could stretch that out to 30, maybe 45 minutes of a window that Danny has to leave and come back without being noticed. And that's why we now cut to donor number 5 in the locker room. He's getting ready. Some guy that you don't see his face is in the locker room with him and asks him if he's leaving. He says, "No, I'm going for a swim." And he goes into the pool and he's swimming around. Then all the lights cut out. And we're like, whoa, what's going on? Nobody in the pool can see what's going on. It's very dark in there. And then Danny grabs a hold of donor number 5 and pulls him underwater in the pool. And then they intercut that with the bathtub scene that we saw twice earlier. And then him coming, getting out of the bathtub and breathing heavy, but then looking at his watch. He was timing how long he could hold his breath to make sure that he could hold his breath longer than 4 minutes, which is how long it takes for a normal human being that is suffocating to become brain dead. So he's holding his breath and training himself. So the whole time they're using a standard kind of movie trope of the bathtub. That bathtub kind of scene is in a lot of movies of people that are stressed out. They're trying to relax, or they're dealing with a traumatic experience. That you have that scene in a lot of movies of them holding their breath in the bathtub underwater. So they used that standard story trope and then turned it around as just continuing the scene. Like, they showed the scene exactly the way that it was before. They didn't add anything to it except letting it go a little longer so that you see him look at his watch. It was a very good touch. I loved that. I loved that they took a standard trope and turned it around. I also liked it because it is possible to hold your breath for a lot longer than 4 minutes, which is, again, the normal amount of time it takes for an average person to become brain dead after they lose oxygen. But there's a lot of free divers that can hold their breath up to like 10 minutes. Even Tom Cruise, for filming Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, he had a sequence where he was underwater. And in real life, he did a lot of the free dive training to be able to hold his breath up to like, I think they said like 7 or 8 minutes, maybe even a little longer, so that he could film longer edit sequences underwater. So if Tom Cruise can do it, Danny absolutely can do it. He would just need the time and training to be able to get to that point. So this was a really good episode, just like all the others were really good. I like that they turned the bathtub holding your breath kind of story trope around and made it in favor of being able to kill somebody. I also like the alibi, even though I'm wondering how much time he would actually have. Like, how close was he to the gym? Would he be able to get there, shut off the lights, drown the guy, and get back within a half an hour? Maybe 45 minutes would be stretching it, but could he do it within a half an hour? That's what I would wonder. And I don't understand the whole vibrator humorous joke in the middle of the show. It seemed out of place, unless it's referenced later on in the next 2 episodes. I don't really see the point of that scene, except to bring a little bit of levity. It did make me laugh, so I don't mind that it's there. It's not like I hate the scene. I like the scene. I think it's funny. It just feels out of place. But what do you guys think? Comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this episode. Please don't say any spoilers for the next 2. I want these videos to really be something that people in the future, if they're watching the episodes, can watch an episode and then watch a review and not really get spoiled along the way, if they want to do it that way. So you can talk about this episode and anything before, but I would love to know your thoughts. And we will be doing 7 and 8 pretty soon. I'm trying to get them out quickly so I can get to 8, since that's coming out tomorrow. Or later today, I guess. So stay tuned. Turn on that notification bell so you're notified of the next 2 episodes. And then I'll also be doing a spoiler-free review of the entire season with my letter grade for it. And then that will be for people that haven't seen the show yet and are wondering if they should watch the whole season. Links are in the description below, so check that out. I've got my social medias, links to the Circus with Charlie Chaplin, and that clip from Akshay Kumar at AIRLIFT, and also like Patreon and Discord server, all kinds of stuff. So check all of that stuff out. And like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. And I will see you on the next episode. Quick promotion, everybody. I'm having fun using the Stardust app, which allows you to make up to a 30-second reaction to movies and TV shows. And I'd love to see your reactions and put them in my videos. If you're interested in that, download the Stardust app. I've got a link to it in the description below. And make sure to follow Koricon. And whenever you make a reaction, make sure that you tag Koricon so that I get notified and can see it. Whenever I make a reaction video or a movie review and I see your video, I will take clips from it and put them in my video. If you're a YouTuber, make sure to put your YouTube channel name on your reaction if you want free promotion. And if you're a fan of my channel and just want to be in there, great. So tag me on your reactions. And to be totally transparent and honest with you guys, when you download the Stardust app, the first person that you follow gets credit for the download. So if you want to follow me and give me credit, make sure that you follow me first. If you want to give your favorite YouTuber a credit, make sure that you follow them first. But either way, make sure that you follow me at some point and tag me in your reactions so I can get them in the videos.